Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Cam Jennings from EasyStartMemberships.com, and I'm not alone today. I want to talk to you guys on this call, but I'm not alone today, man. I got a very special guest with me today. He's a writer. He's a copywriter, content creator, okay? Been creating content for over a decade, various businesses as well as himself, okay? Author of Freedom Skills, The Life Bible, Earn More, Live More, Work Less. Founder of several membership sites, The Viral Code, more recently Freedom Skills Academy. Okay. He's been doing this marketing online business stuff for years. Look, thank you for being here today, Andi Leeman. I appreciate you, man.
No, it's good to be here. Thank you very much. You actually made me sound, I sound like an interesting person, actually. That was a heck of an introduction. So thank you very much. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing really good. There's a lot of places I could start this interview, Andi. I mean, you've done a lot over the years, and I've enjoyed your content quite a bit over the years.
Thank you.
But I want to start this with a quote from Freedom Skills, which I thought was a really cool book.
Thank you.
And it goes like this. Some people feel guilty if they do not do the job they spent years working towards, a job which their degree suits. They feel they shouldn't waste the years they spent studying at university. Imagine doing all that hard work for nothing. Those huge debts, the sacrifice, and help from family cannot just be pushed to the side. With thoughts like those, a lot of university graduates start working in the field they realize they no longer want to work in, all because of guilt and social peer pressure. Even if you don't go to university, if you leave school and get a job, depending on what job it is, you can end up being in that job for many years. I know. I ended up doing it myself when I left school and learned a trade. I became a carpenter, working in workshops and in people's homes. 1 year leads to the next, and before you know it, many years have passed, and you end up drifting through life. It can be soul-destroying when the realization hits you several years down the line. Now, I did a little research, man, and I know you spent 5 years trying to become a really good carpenter, okay? So if I needed someone to help me build a deck, I know who I could call.
Absolutely. I mean,
do it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you say 5 years. I was actually in the building industry for nearly 20 years.
That's amazing.
I mean, for me, I was actually, to cut a long story short, I was leaving school. I had a place at an art college. I was going to be a graphic design student. That's why I wanted to be a graphic designer. But while I was still doing my exams at school, my uncle, who's a carpenter, had this big contract at a local factory, and he says, "Do you want to earn some summer money?" Like, so I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll carry on." And I was doing my exams at the same time, working in there. And he says, "Do you know what? This could be on for quite a while. So if you want to go and get a trade, we'll put you through college." And it was like, at that time, sort of 1990, a lot of graphic designers were coming out, and they were working in supermarkets because there was more graphic design students than there were actual job placements. So I said, okay, yeah, I'll go on and I'll do it. And I ended up going to college to learn carpentry, and then basically got stuck there for like 20 odd years. It was, it didn't help with, I had a couple of years sort of in the wilderness. I lost my sister in a car crash. And so you kind of, a lot of your sort of ambition, a lot of the planning for the future kind of sort of gets knocked on its head. So she was 24, just approaching 25. I was 21. And so you end up sort of, okay, and then you just sort of get stuck in a rut, and then you sort of stay there, and then 1 year becomes another and another, and like I'm still there doing this carpentry, and it's like, oh right, okay. I didn't really want to be a carpenter, but so yeah.
I tell you, maybe I have a skewed viewpoint on this, man, because I don't know how society looks at carpenters and how they look at construction workers. But, my dad was a construction worker. He was a carpenter, and my grandpa was a carpenter and construction worker. And I could tell you all these stories about carpenters and construction workers, man. So my viewpoint is that they're very, very skilled individuals that can do something that like not a lot of other people know how to do.
Yeah.
Right. Not just anyone can walk out in their backyard and build a garage, or like, I think you mentioned somewhere, the skill of like hanging a door is always going to be valuable.
Yeah.
That's never not going to be something that people need to know how to do. So anyways, I was wondering, like, how did you eventually like move into like working for yourself? How did you get into online business? How do you go from like working as a carpenter to online business? And then I guess also like, do you think like all that time you spent being a carpenter, like, did any of those skills translate for you?
Well, the way I started is that I've always wanted to, as you know, I wanted to be a graphic designer, and I'd been sort of playing with the idea of being a t-shirt printer. And so me and when I got with my good lady, we moved into a house that had a sort of an old shop front, and we decided that I've always wanted to be print t-shirts, so I bought some screen printing equipment, and she was doing art, and I was doing some t-shirts and art. And basically, I went to the company I was working for. It was a carpentry factory at the time, because I've either worked on building sites or in workshops, and this time I was building doors, windows, and all that sort of stuff in a factory. And I said, can I drop down to 3 days? And so I ended up doing 2 days at home printing t-shirts, and I was selling them on eBay and then via a website. So this was like my first introduction to the internet sort of world, selling t-shirts on. But we ended up sending t-shirts to Singapore, to Moscow, and places like that. It was quite exciting doing that. But while I was printing t-shirts, which was either, like I say, we were doing the evenings, or they had these 2 days, or the weekends, and I used to have the telly on, and so I was watching the telly, and you'd have the music on and whatever. And then I found this channel called the Entrepreneur Channel, which was from it was a UK channel, a bit like you'd probably say your is it cable you have over there? It's not like your big network; it's your small. And
Right.
This was an English entrepreneur. He was a direct mail marketer. He set it up, and he had Bob Proctor on there, and he had Tracy, what was his name? Oh, I can't remember his name, but he had a few of those, Armand Morin. He had these interviews with these internet marketers who were selling these products. And so I got watching them, and this is how I started to look about sort of internet information publishing. And then I joined a few email lists, and I started to get these emails from, it was Andrew Reynolds, that was who he was. And the guy who used to work with was a guy called Tim Lowe. He was another big UK internet marketing, information direct mail publishing marketing. So they used the internet, but they weren't really internet marketing. They were selling webinars and information seminars and information products. And I got this email from him one day saying that they were looking for new staff, and that they generally like to find people from within their email list who were looking for a writer. And I know I was a bit of a creative spirit, and I enjoyed writing when I was at school, and I just at that point started to learn WordPress. So I was learning blogging and stuff like that. And I thought, you know what, I'll send this email off. And so I applied. I sent this email off to this guy. I hadn't told the missus. Their office was like 200 miles away down south. And then I got this email back from him saying that I've got this interview. So I had to tell her, and so I had to drive all the way down, or I'd go down south about, like I say, 200 miles down south of England, and did this interview. And then while I was on the train back, I got this second interview, and I ended up getting this job. I don't know how I managed to get this job, because it was just I had to go down there and do this sort of live writing with them in an interview. And so that basically kickstarted my journey into the inland world. It started with the t-shirts, the eBay, the online, the Entrepreneur Channel, and then landed this job with this direct mail copywriter who, I mean, the guy was selling seminars. So we were doing information publishing, the typical funnels. You start off with your sort of your £70 product, and then it went up to your £500 product. And then it was your 12 grand weekend seminar where you came for 2 days and you sat there and you learned. And yeah, so the guy was making millions, and there was me, this sort of carpenter from Middle England, sort of landed this job, beat all these other people. And I to this day, I still don't know how I landed it. But then I had to tell my good lady that I had to move 200 miles away for this job. But so yeah, that was the start of it. Now, did my carpentry skills transfer over to it? It's a good question. I really, really don't know. I think the discipline of trying to create a good job is there. I mean, as you said, there's just 2 different types of carpentry, or 2 different types of joinery in the UK. You've got like your shuttering, which is where you're getting ready for the concrete, and then you've got your sort of in-house where you're making oak doors and fitting skirting boards and architraves. They've got to look good. You can't leave someone with the architrave's got a gap like they get spiders come running in and out of. So you've got to have a good eye for detail, and you've got to make sure that you get a good job. And I think that translates into my writing. I hate writing something and then I'm getting better. You know, you've got to write and publish quite quickly. But I'm not one of those people who just knocks it out in 5 minutes and just chucks it on and then walks away. It has to be, I have to be happy with it. It has to look and feel right. So I think I passed over.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that, man. And it shows in your writing, you know, and some of the books of yours that I've read, you're very detailed about, you know, especially like in your one book, you were talking a lot about outsourcing, and you were talking about just the way the money looks, you know. Well, look, if you spend, you know, $30 on this, but if you make $60 on this, then boom, boom, boom. And you kind of like laid it out really meticulously. And I noticed that's something you do in a lot of your books. You lay things out very detailed. It makes it easy for people to follow. They can follow it step by step. And I can totally see. I didn't make that connection when I was reading it, but hearing you talk about it now, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. This dude's been doing carpentry for 20 years. He understands detail. So when he lays this stuff out in his writing, it makes sense that it's so meticulously laid out. So thank you for sharing that. That's a good insight.
There's a couple of times in the past where I've been working for companies and they've come along and they've given you a piece of paper and said, we want you to make that. And there's not enough information on there. You know, your guesswork, and you end up wasting your time. And, you know, you spend all your time sort of scratching your head. I mean, is that, what they say, is it a confused customer isn't a customer because they're not going to buy. If there's any confusion there, that's it, you've lost them. And so I like to try and make, and it's nice that you're saying that it's coming across in my writing, but when you are writing, you need to try and get something across the best way possible, because you want that person to read there and go, oh yeah, I get that. You don't want them to sit there and go, the hell have you just said? What? I don't know where to go next. I don't know what to do. And so you've got to get that clarity through, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely, man. In fact, you said something recently in a note that you wrote or a post, and it was, you were talking about how, like, you know, the person who spends the most money wins when it comes to acquiring a customer. And you said something interesting about how it's not just money. It could also be time. The person who spends the most time to acquire the customer also wins. And I had never heard that before. So I thought that was a really interesting insight. You know, the time and the money, the way they kind of switch out sometimes. I thought that was really cool.
But this is something where I think you're going to win because you're doing it. There's, you know, that was a Dan Kennedy quote. The guy who spends more money trying to acquire a customer will always win. But it's the same thing. I heard a quote the other day, which was, if you want to double your income, double your exposure. So basically get more quality content out there in front of more people. And this is one of the, I can't remember who said it, was a well-known quote, and that is, if you want success, you have to keep doing the really dull, monotonous, daily, boring jobs. Because those are the things that really, you know, everybody wants the glory. But, oh yeah, I'm an author. And you know, you want the kudos, don't you? But you don't. It's not that necessarily that going to win. It's you can write a book, but if you don't do the marketing, you're not necessarily going to sell it. And so you need to be out there every day. And with your on Substack, with all these videos that you do, and you did your lives, and I remember watching them when you was doing them on Facebook. You're out there doing all these things every day, and that is putting you out there. And that is, you know, that was what I was trying to get with that equivalent, where Dan Kennedy says the more money you spend, the better customers you're going to get, or you're going to win. And it's the same with time and output, and that's where you're going to smash it.
Right on, man. Everybody wants to eat the honey, nobody wants to fight the bear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. In March of 2025, it was like earlier this year, you posted on Substack this post, the truth behind borrowed and experience-based trust. And I thought it was a really good article, man. And it was funny because you were talking about a car boot sale, and I didn't know what that was. I had to look it up.
Oh, yeah.
But it was like, it sounded really cool. It's kind of like a garage sale, but it sounded really cool. I love garage sales around here personally. You're telling a story in there about two different vendors and how, like, one of them you would like not eat at that place, and the other one you're like, yep, I'm going to that place.
Yeah.
But there was this whole concept about borrowed trust, right? And I was wondering if you could kind of speak on that concept of borrowed trust. How can people take advantage of something like that? I thought it was a really cool concept, man.
Well, that article was inspired by something I'd seen on Facebook, and there's a lot of attraction marketing people going on there, and they're selling their products. And as you know, in copywriting, you always have to come up with your angle. You try and make one thing a villain and one thing a not. And this guy was there saying that you don't need trust to make a sale, because you go to Amazon and you buy a book from some guy who's selling, and you don't know who he is. You've never met him. You've nothing to do with him, so there's no trust there. And it's like, well, actually, that's not quite right. You don't trust him, but you trust the platform. And you trust the platform because it's been there for years. It's got this reputation. And so, with borrowed trust, there's like, as I see it, there's trust is flexible. Firstly, it's affected by the amount. So if you don't need a lot of trust to spend $5, but you need a lot of trust to spend $5,000. Then there's also borrowed trust and perceived trust. So perceived trust is when you look at something such as the prime example you were talking about there was, it was a big car boot. So basically, it's a field full of, everyone drives up in the car or the van and they lay out a table, garage sale, as you probably say it. And so these couple of lads came up, and it was a battered red van from what I can remember, set up a table, got a camping stove out, and they got this big piece of cardboard. It was either taped to the front of the workbench and probably one on the van. And it said like hot dogs for £1. Or like $1, it's probably in America, and it was just hand scrawn. And there was these two guys, and they were trying to cook these hot dogs, and they were wearing tatty clothes. The van door was wide open. The van looked dirty, and you looked, and you just sort of go, I don't know. And then down the line, there's this proper food truck, and the thing is, I've not eaten from either of them. You know what I mean? I've not eaten from either of them. Their food could be far greater than the one that was in the nice food truck. But I'm looking at them because I'm using what is basically borrowed, perceived, and experienced trust. I'm looking at them and going, they look the part. And this is one of the things where with sort of the internet marketing, I hate to use the word, but that's why con men are brilliant, because they look the part. You often have to look the part. You have to sort of work on people's perceived trust or their borrowed trust. Borrowed trust is where you have, let's say you've got a group of friends, they come around and say, have you tried this new taco bar or whatever? And you go, I've not been there. Oh, it's fantastic. Well, you're going to go and try it, and you're going to try it with an open mind, because your friends there are not going to come and lie to you particularly, unless you've got someone, it's like the jackass generation where they're going to send you somewhere and, watch you sort of suffer. But, your friends are going to be good people. They're going to say, well, I know he likes tacos. You want to try that? So you're willing to give it a go because you're borrowing their trust, their experience. And so there's so many different sort of levels to trust. And I needed to write that piece because it just made me sort of cringe, where they were saying, oh yeah, you don't need to nurture people. You don't need to use a lead magnet. You don't need to trust to make a sale. And it's like, and the example he used was like, well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, there is a truth in it somewhere. I mean, if you've got I think you call it a faucet in America, it's a tap. So if your kitchen faucet pops and there's water flooding everywhere, you ring for a plumber. You will try and get the quickest plumber possible. You're not going to sit there and spend the next 2 weeks trying to find out whether you're going to trust him or if he's a good bloke. But again, you will use perceived and borrowed trust. You will probably go to a recommended, let's say the Yellow Pages or whatever they used to be, and you go to a website where you have. It's a trusted platform where there are people listed, or you're going to ring up your friends, say, does anybody you suggest, or or you're going to look in the street and you're going to see someone who's got the van's got the best signage on there. You're still going to pick somebody on trust. If you've got nobody else to go with, you'll just go with the quickest one because you've got a problem to solve. So I do accept the fact that when you've got a problem that is pressing and you need to get that problem solved ASAP, you're not going to go through a whole nurturing campaign to make sure he's the right plumber. Well, I want to make sure he's the right plumber. No, you've got a kitchen that's getting flooded. You need to stop it fast. But in most other situations, whenever you're buying something, you're going to make a decision based on your previous experience, what you're seeing, and what you know of that person.
Yeah, that's amazing. And thank you for explaining that, because I 100% agree with you, man, because, when we first moved into this house, I bought this house in 2018, I think. And very, very quickly, I started assembling a list of my go-to people. All right, I need a roofer. Who's my go-to roofer? I need a plumber. Who's my go-to plumber? I need a HVAC guy. Who's my go-to, heating and air guy? And very quickly I started assembling this list of people, and then some of them got replaced because I didn't feel like they were good enough. I couldn't trust them.
Yeah.
But it was important to me before I ever had any problems to have people who were my guys, my go-to people that I could call. And you see this being displayed on the internet too all the time. You see businesses, they have websites they're trying to sell, but they also are selling from Amazon. Okay. They're selling from Amazon and selling from their websites. Why would they be doing that? You know, they're borrowing trust from Amazon. You know, there are people out there who feel comfortable buying from Amazon, but they don't feel comfortable buying from your website that they've never heard of before. So
yeah,
it's like borrowed trust.
Exactly. I mean, it's like when you see those websites where they used to have those signs up, or the graphics saying "as seen on TV." You see big program platforms now, big platforms, big agencies, and they'll say like, "We work for the BBC or CNN and stuff like that." They put them on there because they're big platform. It's all like celebrity endorsement, isn't it? It's just people don't realize how much trust or a previous trust experience or borrowed trust that we actually work on. And like you say, if you're a company, you stick stuff on Amazon. It's because when we used to sell t-shirts, we used eBay, and so people would buy from eBay, and every time we sent a t-shirt out, we would send a flyer which would then direct them back to the website. Then they would come to the website to buy another t-shirt, and it would probably be cheaper, but they'd come direct to us. It was better for them then because they've actually realized that we are a company that would deliver the t-shirt. So they went through a trusted platform. After that, they came to us. So, I mean, that's what we used to do. We used to, it was a case of, at that time, it wasn't necessarily a case of using eBay's trust, even though it was. It was, we were going there because that's where the audience was. But once they've established that they could trust us, they would come to us direct.
That's awesome. I love that story too, how you said you got started selling t-shirts on eBay. I got started online selling used books on Amazon. So
I remember reading about that, yeah.
I can relate to that, man. That's really cool. I want to talk to you about AI for a moment, man. I have been entertained by your notes and posts on Substack for a while now, and I love the way you talk about AI on there. I want to quote you again here. So here's a couple different things, right? So back in 2023 in September, you wrote a post, and I think this is your first post on Substack about AI. This is way back. We're going back a couple years here, 2023. My fears over AI tools and those who push them. Now, in that article, you say, I am not completely anti-AI, okay? Far from it. But I am concerned about the AI tools that are being created to make specific work easier, which ultimately pulls millions of people out of work and those who push them. All right. I was saddened to see another guy talking about releasing his blogging AI tool, which populates a website blog with content so that the blog owner doesn't need to write it or hire writers to write it for them. Right? That was in September 2023. It was a reasonable article. It was a reasonable article. You're making some predictions and you're kind of ruminating on your fears over AI. It feels cautionary. Like, hey guys, listen, we got to be careful here with this stuff. Like, hey, we need to be careful with this technology, right? It was reasonable. Flash forward 2 years and you write another article. This really boils my piss. That's hilarious. August of 2025. This really boils my piss. And I'll quote this one briefly. 200 quid? I splurted, almost drenching my laptop in coffee. That's the price being charged for a personalless new product being touted by a company I know well. When I say personalless, I mean that there isn't a real person behind the product, even though they say there is. Why am I horrified? The whole product looks like it was churned out by ChatGPT. It's 50 plus pages of information you can get online for free, especially if you go to ChatGPT. The actual system used to make money could easily be explained in a short conversation over a beer in a bar. By the way, guys, in case you're from America and you don't know what quid is or how much that relates to, that's about $268. Anyways, I read these two articles and it seemed like your opinions got less cautionary and more negative on AI over a couple of years. There's like an evolution of of sentiment towards AI. And I was just wondering, like, what's your stance on AI right now? How do you think it is affecting online business?
Right. As I said before, I'm not anti-AI, and I can't be anti-AI because as a person who is into sort of, I use Canva, I use Google Docs, everything, they call us Luddites because obviously in the Industrial Revolution, there was Luddites who were against technology. But as far as I was concerned, during the Industrial Revolution, not that it was right for someone to lose a job and be forced to do a different job, but every time there was every time technology progressed, somebody had to create that progression. There was, when the mills end up with these, they had to build these big mills to house the machines that would do the looms and all that lot for the textile industry. Somebody had to build those looms. They had to, there was a new industry sort of born out of that. And it was the same, when wooden ships swapped for metal ships had to be built. Today, we're at that generation now where we are at a point where robots will build cars, but we have robots that are controlled by computers, and those computers will soon be run by AI, and there'll only be one person over on top of all that. So eventually there is going to be this diminishing workforce, and that is how it's happening. It was only yesterday I saw a video, I think it could have been in China, where they were laying rows, and the big steam rollers that they have, there was like 4 or 5 of them, all computer guided up and down this road. Not one of them was being driven.
Wow.
So there's all these people out, and and don't get me wrong, it's better because they're using this program and they're all tracking along in this nice way, and they've got sensors on, and it's like the self-drive taxis. But the AI people have said themselves that they're going to cut out work, and that article you mentioned there, I actually used to work for that company, and the original prediction article came because of the conversation I'd had with the guy, or one of the guys who owned it, and was that they were moving towards AI and wanted me to do it. And I do believe that I actually lost the contract because of AI. And so I am seeing people losing their work. So it kind of, when you go to Substack and Medium, you see these people saying, oh, you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose a job to a person who's embraced AI. Or if you don't want to be left behind, you need to embrace AI. And it's like, yeah, but we can't all embrace AI. There was an article the other day. In fact, I'll quote a few articles. There was an article the other day where they interviewed some people leaving school. And this girl, she'd gone to university to graphic design, but she can't get work because the graphic designers are not replacing, the companies aren't replacing new graphic designers, particularly because one's gone. They just get this other one to use AI to churn out the work quickly. And so the working is diminishing. And it's, there was, I remember seeing about an advertising agency had slashed several jobs because they were using AI, and so it's getting smaller and smaller. And I don't know about in America. I remember reading about, was it Walmart was said that by 2030 something, a lot of their stores are basically going to be people less. They're going very automated, and this is happening in sort of every industry. So it's getting smaller and smaller. And so to have these people on Substack saying, oh, we need to embrace AI, it's like, well, Walmart staff, if they all embraced AI, will there be a job available for them? No, because AI is purposely being created to make things faster, easier, and to replace people. You're seeing videos of these like little robots driving down the road now, delivering items for Amazon or stuff. And it's going to get to the point where we're all going to be sort of sat there. And the thing that gets me, and this is the thing where I think they're selling a bit short, is if we all suddenly embrace AI and we start writing articles with AI, yes, it's great. We can churn out work quicker. We can get twice as much done and get it out there. But why are people going to want to purchase our products and services if they can just go to Claude, ChatGPT, and put in a prompt and get the same stuff? Technically, they're paying people now to read their ChatGPT, their AI research. They just might as well go do it themselves. I've been on the phone to the daughter today. First thing she does is go ChatGPT to search something. She's bypassing the websites through Google. She's not going and buying PDFs or anything like that. And if there's all these people out of work because there's self-drive taxis, the Walmart's got rid of staff, and once all these people have been sort of dumped onto the job pile or an employment pile, they ain't gonna have the money spare to go and buy all these AI-driven or AI-created courses. So I don't see how they can be so bouncy, happy and positive and rose tinted specs about AI in the industry. Yeah, short-term gain for them. We get that. We're in the information business. We get that. But, and, you know, we're, as copywriters, you're never actually going to sell the negative, you know, oh, you need this product, but by the way, you'll be redundant in 6 months' time. But it is going that. It just makes me concerned, or makes me wonder. I mean, I've sat here a couple of times these last couple of months thinking, you mentioned about the joinery, the skills. People like the guys behind AI, the guys behind ChatGPT and all that, they've often said that the jobs that are going to flourish in the next few years, because once a lot of the office workers have gone on the, you know, the AI has done the research, it's doing the graphics, it's doing the writing, it's doing all, you know, the spreadsheets, and it's doing the call centers. The jobs that it can't replace as yet are the plumbers and the bricklayers. And I'm sat here thinking, am I going to have to go back on the building site? Is that my next move? Which, yeah, so it's my next project, or one of my next projects for 2026. I remember you said you wanted to talk about it. I think I am actually pivoting towards doing an offline business using online platforms.
You know what? I think, man, you unpacked so much right there. I mean, look, AI it's decimating businesses right now. I mean, people aren't talking about it. And if anybody like you and me, if we sit there and try to say anything negative about AI, you know, yeah, we're called dinosaurs. We're living in the past, man. The world's gonna pass us up, man. You know, we're not embracing electricity. You know, whatever, man. That's not even the case. That's not even the case. All right.
That is a good one. Yeah, there's like they come out with all these sort of analogies, but they, like I said, they miss they forget the obvious. It's like, oh yeah, but so electricity comes, you're going to sit in the dark. It's like, well, not necessarily. Electricity replaced the candle, but it also meant that people had to build power stations, and they did the work. And you had electrician. There's all these offshoots. AI is reducing the offshoots to basically one or two. There's going to be one or two people who's going to be sat in the office waiting to pull the kill switch in case it suddenly gains, you know, it becomes Terminator stylish. But it's
they need to stop acting like the goal is not to just like replace like 99% of all work. You know, they'd replace anybody they could, man. They'd replace the cashiers. They'd replace the people who stock the groceries. They'd replace the CEOs with virtual CEOs. They'd replace everybody if they could, man. You just have like a few like fat cat business owners with their entire companies being ran by AI agents. Okay, they wouldn't need any employees.
That's part of the problem. I mean, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not an anti-capitalist. I'm not necessarily a socialist either. I'm somewhere in the middle. I believe that we have to be sort of aware of the social effects of what's happening, and I believe that I like the term compassionate capitalism. That's where you're allowed to earn as much money as you want, but you're not a prat about it. You know, there's something wrong about having billionaires where it's all squirreled away and doing nothing. Because I saw something the other day about saying, you know, around the times of, is it Carnegie and all those, like the old millionaires and billionaires at the turn of the sort of the 19th century, they were sort of very, it's a word I can never say, they would build universities and they would build houses for people. You know, they would put a lot of their money back into society. A lot of that seemed to have disappeared. And I can't help but think, you see all these people are trying to sell these AI products. And I think, do you know what? Sometimes one of the best things that you can actually do is just pay somebody so they can put food on the table for the family. You know, hire the editor, hire the graphics designer, but I mean, don't get me wrong, it is so easy because there's times where I've used Ideogram and ChatGPT knock up images for clients. And it's just, I can see why people use them. But sometimes it's kind of like, well, you know, the taxi drivers now, they've lost the self-drive cars. They are safer. There's no emotion there. People don't get tired. They can, you know, they can see 360 degrees round, 24 hours without having to sleep and that. You know, so they are safer. But sometimes just give people jobs so that they can actually afford to feed their children. That's, you know, it's not too much to ask, is it really? Do you know what I mean?
I don't think so, man. I don't think so. I mean, and I get where you're coming from, man. Like I used to have to hire people to transcribe like my audio trainings and stuff. So I had the transcription there to go with the package. Now, you know, I do an audio training. I can run over to TurboScribe and have it transcribed in like 5 minutes, and it's pretty daggone accurate. So I get it. There's a draw to it for sure.
It is. I mean, I'm guilty myself. I mean, this is the thing. It's very easy to be drawn into it because it's so easy. You go to Canva and you stick a video on there. So if I record a video on my phone talking and I put it into Canva and then hit the captions, it auto generates them, and you've got the transcription there, like you say, on certain tools. It's so easy to do, and it's like, wow, why would you? But so there's a concern though. So it's not that I'm anti-AI and it's not that I'm against progression, because I've always believed you can't stop progress. You know, it's foolish to. It's inevitable that we progress. You know, the world changes, the world turns, people die, countries and empires, they come and go. It happens. It's what we do. So you're never going to stop progress. You can't hang on and cling on to the past. But we do have to be sort of conscious of what the effects are going to be, because a lot of it's always been sort of gradual and eroding, but this could be a huge, big dump onto society of the unemployed pile. And that, if we're not working, who's paying taxes? If people aren't paying taxes, how are we going to pay food and benefits and stuff like that? This is what we've got to be sort of get concerned with. So again, like I say, if anybody's watching, I'm not anti-AI and I'm not a Luddite, but and feel free to use the tools because they are fantastic. Don't get me wrong, they are really impressive. But I just sometimes, just a little bit concerned about where it's going.
Yeah, right on, man. And I think that a lot of the content creation that people are doing with AI, like the written content, the other forms of content. I mean, look, it's all starting to sound the same. I mean, it's all starting to sound the same. And that kind of brings me into the next point I wanted to ask you about. Like, I find your content to stand out on Substack. Like you're one of the genuine articles, man. Like someone can go to your Substack, they can read your notes, they can read your posts, and it doesn't sound like what other people are doing. And I think that part of that is because that's really you. That's really you writing that stuff. It's very interesting. And like, I guess I was going to ask you, with your notes and stuff, you use humor, you use food for thought, a bit of ranting in there, just honest stuff, just honest stuff, man. I find it very cool. Like, can you tell us the story, how you got into Substack, how you use it, if you see it as a good place for business, moving into the future for people? Like, what do you think of Substack?
I first came across Substack with it was a copywriter actually on Facebook. I think I saw him. He was playing around with it. I don't think he's done anything with it since. Again, a guy called Nathan. Did you ever watch David Garfinkel on the Copyright Podcast? Yeah. So you'll know Nathan. So I think he was the guy who posted about using Substack. So I went over and had a lot and thought, I'll have a go, and I set up. My own downside, after we talked about earlier about sticking with it, I actually started publishing, then I stopped for quite a while because I was focusing on the work I was doing for clients, and a lot of my stuff slipped behind. But as far as Substack is for business now, I'm using it more and more. I was starting to do it twice a week, but I'm now trying to do it 5 days a week. Everything is written. I mean, it is written. If I don't do it a couple of days beforehand, I do it on the day. So everything is sort of freshly written. And to me, I think, again, it all comes down to how your business is. There's a lot of writers on there trying to sell writing products. And I think that's great. Notes apparently is great for building up your followers and your subscribers. And I think it's great if you're trying to sell to writers who are about writing. But I think for a lot of people, they probably need to bring their traffic from outside Substack. But I think as a platform, I think it's fantastic in many ways, because we were talking about this earlier with blogging. People used to say like blogging is dead. I don't think blogging is dead. I think blogging has just changed the location. It's just changed. So in the old days, you used to write on your website, you'd use keywords and Google would send people to your website. If you got free traffic, you were quizzing, you were laughing, I can remember a guy, Jay, the Australian chap, Jay Stoner, Jay, whoever he was, he built a website around affirmations, and he was selling a ClickBank product. And the way he wrote it, and it was very like 5 pages deep. It wasn't big, but he was getting lots of free traffic from Google based on this keyword. And I think he was making like $1,000 to $2,000 a month off this ClickBank product to do with meditation and affirmations. Those days are virtually gone. You now have to go and put your content out in front of where the people are. And you've got Substack and places like Medium. These are companies that have attracted large amounts of people. They've set it up so people are going there like they go to Amazon, Kindle, or Audible. It's not just the one website where you go to read an article. It's where you go to read loads of different people. And so they've got now this audience as well as these publishers. But now they've given you more tools as well. So you can charge for your content, which is great, or you can do a free version, you can do a paid version, you can do both. But now you can do your video, you got your social media side with the notes, you can do photograph, there's so much you can do. You can go live, you can broadcast. So it is in many ways a great place to have a business, because it's a platform that you can use for free until you start, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's free until you start charging. That's right, isn't it? They take a fee out of what you're earning. But you can go there and it can do everything, and you haven't got to faff around with like WordPress. You know yourself, when you got WordPress, it's great. I believe everyone should have their own platform, their own website, their own third party. If you rely on third party platforms, you can have it all robbed and taken away from you. So it's always handy to have your own place. But with WordPress, you wake up one morning and you find that your pop-in form's not working. Plugins need updating, but they've crashed, or it's affecting another plugin. I got an email from someone the other day saying that I can't sign up to your newsletter. And you're like, why? So, well, the pop-up form was popping up, but the opt-in form wasn't showing. And it's like, oh, well, what's happened there then? And so you had to go in and do that. With Substack, they have technicians who do all that stuff for you. You haven't got to do anything. You basically, it's plug and play. So you walk in, you set your stall up, and you start publishing to it. I do believe that people will probably need to use social media to get people into it as well, because you do see, it is kind of funny. You see these people who are like, I've been on Substack 6 months now, and I got like 20,000 subscribers. Like, yeah, but you had 50,000 people on an email address. You sent them an email, and 20,000 have come over. He's like, I'm not being funny. And you probably have worked hard. There might be 1 or 2 people who have attracted a lot, because there is some people who are doing well. They say you've got to engage with people, and you've got to. But the thing as well that concerns me is that if you're a business that has nothing to do with writing or marketing, then going into notes and talking about your stuff isn't necessarily going to attract people, because it's full of writers and marketers and that kind of stuff. So you're going to have to use your traffic source, I think, externally, probably YouTube, maybe Facebook X or stuff like that, Threads or Blue Sky. But yeah, as a platform, I think it's fantastic, because it just gives you the opportunity to, you can start today, and you can actually set your first article behind a paid wall, and you've already got a product ready to sell. So I do love Substack. I do love it, and I love Medium. And now I'm trying to publish both articles. Originally, I was doing 5 articles to Medium and 2 different ones on Substack. Now I'm experimenting doing 5 on both, but I'm also linking from Medium to my Substack to see if people, because as you know, in Medium, if you're not paying, you can't read all the articles if you put it behind a paywall. So if you put your article on Medium behind a paywall, but like 3rd paragraph down, you say, not a member, click here, read it for free on Substack, you get people over to Substack.
How's it going for you on Medium? Are you experiencing any growth over there or anything like that?
I am a little bit steady, but I mean, again, like I say, there's I don't go in and like, comment and read articles like I should do. One of the biggest problems being a content creator, which you'll know, is that to become a good content creator, you need to consume content. But if you're not careful, you're consuming everybody's content all the time, and you're not getting your own work done. I mean, I said to you the other week, I need to come back to your videos, because I've tuned in a couple of times when you've done lives, and I've really enjoyed them, and I've learned from them. And so I go, I'm going to come back and read this. I'm going to watch this one, and I'm going to do this. And you're one of probably about 20 odd people. If I'm not, you've got to try and bring your list down to a small number of people, because if you're not careful, you're just spending all your time consuming everybody else's stuff. And something gives. And the one thing I don't do on Medium and Substack as much as I should is actually go and read other people's content and sort of comment and engage with people.
That's good insight, man. And you're right. And I think, man, it's even harder now, because after all the AI stuff has dropped, it's, I mean, I was reading the other day, it was like 5 billion pieces of content coming out a month or something on the internet. It's like way more than it used to be since AI has hit the scene. And basically people are just like content overloaded. Like it's so much content, like people are like starting to move offline because like they're stressed out from all the content. So, you know, who knows where that's going to go, but you know, I found it to be interesting. There's so much content to actually consume out there. It's a little hard, man. You really got to pick and choose.
You do. I think it was you who said a couple of months ago that your one of your predictions for the future, if it wasn't you, it was probably the guy from Viral Nova who said something along the lines that he can see that not necessarily pockets of resistance, but there'll be places popping up on the internet which will be communities for real people who are publishing real content. And it'll be like an AI-free zone. I mean, a few years ago, the article you mentioned that I wrote in 23 when I was predicting about what my concerns were, I was anticipating that. Do you remember Queen when they used to release their first albums? They used to have no synthesizers were used in these recordings. Yeah. So I was thinking of becoming like there's no AI used in this writing, so become the anti-AI marketer sort of thing. Everything is real, and that it might be something that'll happen in the future, because once everybody starts flooding the internet with these AI avatars and AI versions of themselves and AI this, AI that, you're starting to lose the real connection. And I think, you know, the being real, like you turning up and doing a video, people are going to be, he's a real person, and that's just going to draw people in. And I think that could be the future.
Man, I think it's already happening a little bit, because, you know, in the PLR space, I don't know if you're that familiar with the PLR space, but you know, that's one of the things I do is I sell PLR, and man, I tell you, AI is really hitting that market hard. I mean, people aren't as interested in buying PLR because they can just go have ChatGPT make their content for them or whatever. And you know, I know a lot of my stuff, I'm starting to write humans. These articles were created by humans for humans and stuff like that. So you're already seeing the positioning shift a little bit from, hey, let me write your stuff for you to save your time, to like, hey, this was written by a human, so it's going to be better than the stuff you can get from AI. So you see the positioning kind of like changing in the PLR space. So I think your prediction's accurate.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. You've got AI has got to be. Everybody seems to forget that humans love stories. This is how we pass down. I mean, we talk about that Scandinavian the folklore, and you know, they pass I mean, you take the Bible and stuff like that, religious stories, education, we pass things down through stories. You know, David and Goliath is talking about how small can triumph over big. We can lay facts out in front of people, but we never remember them. But we remember them if it's a story, and we learn through stories. And so when we as people write things down from our point of view, like I talked about that car boot sale where I saw the people selling the hot dogs out the back of a van. That's a real story that happened to me. So that's ChatGPT isn't going to have any real true stories, because it's not a real entity. It's not living. It can take them from other people, and yes, it could probably say, oh, this bloke went to such and such a thing and experienced this. But you know, when we start writing from what we're doing on a daily basis, like you've just mentioned there about how when you moved into the house, you started gathering this list of people. That's a great example of how you could say about how you're preparing for the day should something go wrong. So when it does go wrong, you're not running around the house going, you know, you that is a story you can put into an article or an email. And this is what I think people need to sort of focus on. We need more stories in proper content, because it's a lot of the time it's what we learn. And I know we are living in a world where my missus, she does it. She laughs. She wants to go online and find a recipe. She wants the recipe. She doesn't want the story beforehand about necessarily how it was. You know, she learned it from a nan and all this. There's all these stories, but sometimes people just want the summary. There's websites where you can now go and get a summary of a book, so you don't have to read the fluff and filler, which is fine for people who are short on time. But on the whole, human connection and human evolution and we learn through sitting down and talking and having stories and having a laugh, and that's going to start losing. So I don't know where we're going to be if all we're doing is reading articles that have got like a bullet point and a conclusion. We're talking now. It could have been a very short conversation if I just basically read out bullet points like in a robotic voice. Oh yeah, I left college and I went and did this, and then this, and then this. Thanks, goodbye.
Man, Andy, someone's going to be watching this video, and they're not even going to watch the video. They're just going to hit a little summary over here on the side. The YouTube AI extension from their Chrome extension. Boom. Let's give me the summary of this bullet point for this interview, okay? I'm not sent through this hour-long interview. Blap.
So, I dread to think what AI will say after what he's listened to what I've had to say.
No, man, it's been amazing. Speaking of which, recently, maybe a week ago or so, you announced a new business you're going to be working on. It sounded pretty exciting, okay? My latest online business challenge. I'm currently working on setting up a new offline business. This is going to be an online newsletter focusing on properties in a specific location that require renovation. Sounds really exciting, man. Can you share the story of how that came about and what it has been like working to get it going? I know it's kind of under wraps. I don't want you to don't reveal anything that you're trying to keep under wraps, but if you can speak around it a little bit and share a story with people about how that all came about, that'd be amazing.
Right. Well, yeah. So people are probably going to guess because we've already discussed where I'd moved to a couple of years ago. So I had a couple of years outside the country, outside the UK. Before we moved to this country, we were looking about moving to the Republic of Ireland because I've always fancied Ireland. And she's a TV presenter and she has a newsletter where basically it's the same thing. She charges, I think it's €5 per month, and I think she has a couple of newsletters. And then what she does is every Wednesday, I think it is, she sends a newsletter out with several listings of properties that she's found. She basically searches through all these properties and finds these great deals and whatnot. And I used to subscribe to it. And then so when I went, I thought this is pretty cool. And I went overseas to this specific country, and it's a very low population. Interestingly, it's for Americans, it's the #1 destination for them to emigrate and retire to, apparently. We met a few Americans while I was over there, and it was great people. We used to have a meet up with the British and the Americans. It was a nice little gathering. But I was amazed at how this country used to be a dictatorship up till I think basically the 70s. And it had a lot of poverty, and that meant a lot of property got left, and the country is awash with these wonderful looking properties that you can pick up for a fraction of the price that you can pick up for in the UK and America, but they need a lot of work. And so I'm not an estate agent or a real estater, as you call them. I'm not. I've been in the building trade, so I know a bit about buildings. But I came up with this idea of creating this newsletter, which was similar to what she was doing with the Irish property. But I was thinking, so it's kind of going with an offline topic, but I want to use what I know from online, which is create this newsletter. I've got the website, and then I wanted to create something that was able to get marketing out there quick without having to take a lot of effort. So I think I'm going down the YouTube route. So I've got these ideas. I don't know if it's going to work. I really don't know if it's going to work, but I do know the fact that there are people who are moving to this country. A lot of people moving to this country. I've been through that process myself. I've seen the property, and I know people over there. I'm learning the language again for the future. We might go to Spain next time, but it's just something. I actually built the website when I was there quite a couple of years ago, and because with the things with like AI and everything that's going on, I'm just thinking, this could be a pivot to something that is using both offline and online, and that's what I'm kind of working on at the moment. Just got a few videos to edit and YouTube channel to sort of set up, and then testing, see how it goes. There's different ways to monetize it. I haven't fully decided whether I'm going to do I set it up as a paid newsletter, but then I don't know whether it's a free newsletter and just charge people from, say, this country, Portugal, if they're going to, lawyers and estate agents to advertise in it or what. I haven't yet fully decided, but yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. That's exciting. And I always find it fascinating hearing about people's new business ideas and projects they're working on. It's always messy. Dude. It's not like it's not cut in stone, man, because you're paving a new path. It's something different. It's something new, and I always find it interesting to hear. Thank you for sharing that, Andy. I appreciate it. And I think those messy stories can help people a lot. Just to pivot this a little bit, just a couple questions left for you, man. I don't want to keep you all day long. You've been extremely generous with your time, and I appreciate you, man.
No problem.
Back in 2023, you announced a new newsletter that you were starting back then. It was called How to Kill Zombies. And I thought that was very, very cool, man. I like fiction, okay? And I love movies, and I watch it all. I'm interested in all of it. And so I know you also write fiction, okay?
Yeah.
I know you've written fiction for other people. You've done client work. Now it looks like nothing ever got published on that particular newsletter. Like, can you speak on like what happened to How to Kill Zombies and kind of share with us your thoughts on fiction writing and anything that you might be working on right now as far as fiction goes?
Right. Yeah. No worries. I mean, that's the project my missus think I should be doing more of. But because as you know, with her condition, I'm the only sort of earner in the house. I have to be careful. I have to focus on what I'm doing and where to bring the money in. Obviously, we've got to make sure we're not doing stupid things. So it's with the music. It's a thing. Those are my two sort of passions. I love writing fiction and I love making music. And if you get your 1,000 true fans, which we've written about before, if you get 1,000 fans who are willing to buy my music or my fiction, then life's good. But I've yet to get to that point with those two things there. So the How to Kill Zombies, I had the website How to Kill Zombies. I published some stuff there. I do have zombie fiction published to Amazon under my name. There's several books on there. And I wrote a series of books which have yet not been published, and that's to do with time traveling detective called Veronica Steele. And I was writing, I've got another one waiting to go on Amazon. I'm just going to re-edit it. I wrote this probably about 10 years ago. One Night in Manchester. I've written quite a lot of fiction, and the whole idea was I've got it set up. The How to Kill Zombies is on Patreon, it's on Ream Stories, on Substack. So I was going to do exactly the same thing. I was write my fiction, publish it to those platforms, and then just slowly build it up. And it's yet something I've yet to get around to, and I think that's going to be on my list for 2026. I'm constantly there. It's in the back of my mind, and it's like, it's like when you're trying to juggle so many balls and everything, and you've got your family commitments and whatnot. You're trying to, you're trying to do what's best for everyone. If I was, if I was single living in my parents' basement and they were doing all my food and washing, and I was like 25 and no friends, we'll be laughing because you could just spend all your day doing that one thing that you want to do. But unfortunately, that's not the position. But so, yeah, How to Kill Zombies is there. It's all set up waiting for me. Because I even considered, you read about the outsourcing, is that I just write the fiction. The idea is I just sit and write, pass that out to somebody else to do. You do that bit, you do that bit. So there's so much going through my head on that, but I would really love to, because I enjoyed writing the zombie fiction. I enjoyed the time travel detective I've written. I enjoyed, like I say, there's one I'm writing at the moment, which is, I say one I'm writing, it's been going on for blinking ages. It was like alien vampires. And then that came along with another idea for a police drama set in the future on another planet. And he's like, they evolve, and it's just like, oh, I could write that. So that again is all exciting. But then again, we're now at that AI stage of the world where people are using AI to write fiction again. And it's like, do I need to bother? I mean, there's people, there's a lot of people saying, I don't care who wrote it as long as it's a good story. And you had I
don't believe it, man. I do not believe it.
Yeah.
I do not believe it, dude. I think that's the narrative being pushed out there by people who are using AI.
Potentially, probably, yeah. I mean, it's. You had a good debate the other day with Stuart Blatch, I think his name is. I followed him for quite a while because I don't know what happened to him, but him and Mark Dawson, who is a very successful writer here from the UK, they did a collab, and it was to do with writing. I was on their course. It was fiction writing. So Mark was doing it, and then they were doing like the Facebook ads and stuff like that. And then Mark seems to have, I think his writing business must have took off, because I know that they were making films out of his books, and he's writing children's books. And so it was Stuart Blatch, and so I was on his email list, and I used to listen to their podcast. And then he did that thing the other day, wasn't it, about the author who she did an AI cover, but then changed it so it wasn't AI because of the people were policing and all this lot. And it's like, yeah, and it was like, but yeah, it's people don't always necessarily want to spend, as you said, they don't want to spend their money knowing that, well, that they bought a product that they could have just gone to ChatGPT and done. They want to pay you to deliver something, and so they want something genuine and real. And to criticize these people saying that they're policing the internet so you can't use AI is, well, like you said, it's her right to change her mind as much as it's their right to accept it or not. But yeah, with fiction, I just don't know what's going to happen with fiction, with writing, because with the AI, sorry, it's such a murky world at the moment, isn't it? We don't know what's what. I mean, it is churning out a lot of stuff. And again, if I do eventually get onto my writing, my fiction, or publishing my fiction, I probably will be the non-AI writer. Because I remember once asking you on Facebook about Pulp Fiction covers, because I would love to have somebody who could do the sort of Pulp Fiction covers, but you can do them in AI. But I'm kind of like, it's that would really free me up, because I can write fiction. I just need the covers making, and that's often the hardest part, is getting a good cover made. But do I now use AI for that, which then kind of makes me a bit of a hypocrite, or do I sort of get somebody and pay them, like I say, put food on their table, give the work to someone? But it's trying to find someone who can do good covers, really. That's probably been my biggest stall. So the reason why I thought about Patreon and Ream and Substack is that I can probably get away with publishing stuff without having to have covers. And I think that might have been part of the thinking at that time.
And then the other part of that you have to worry about is, if you do want to take that ethical stance and not use AI for the covers, and you want to hire somebody, the other thing is you have to worry about them using AI.
Exactly. Absolutely. I mean, we've had this, I've had this discussion a few times with people. Obviously, I think the way I sort of justify is that if I say to somebody, I'd like a cover, and if they use Adobe or Canva, they're not actually necessarily doing it by hand. They're using technology. Someone can say, well, I'm using the same with AI. I've spent the last fortnight creating this prompt to create the cover. So you've paid somebody to do the work, but it's the same time is, well, I could have probably done the same work myself. Do you know what I mean? It's, I'm paying you because I can't do the covers. I mean, I know I wanted to be a graphic designer, and I used to do, when I was younger, I used to do like the graffiti and characters and illustrations. So I can draw, but I've not been in the industry for years or anything like it. So you want to pay somebody to do it. So you do feel a bit miffed if you pay somebody to do it and they just come back with something they've done on AI. It's like, well, I could have probably done that.
Man, it's interesting I hear you talk about fiction, and I hear you talk about music. We talked a little bit about music before we started recording this interview, but enough that I know that you have a love for music, and I can tell by listening to you talk now, you have a love for writing fiction as well. But it's hard because those things don't seem to pay the bills. And like, it's such a funny thing, to be the boss. You know what I mean? It's a funny thing to be the boss of your own enterprise and trying to make the decisions of which way do you spend your time, which way do you spend your energy that's going to make you the most money. And there's a lot of opportunities out there, but you can only do like one or two at a time, and you got to make these really tough decisions about which way is going to be the best way to go to optimize living for your family. You know what I mean? So I respect that, man.
Absolutely. I mean, if you try and do everything, you spread yourself too thin. I mean, I used an image. I did a workshop once a couple of months ago, and I found this image and I stuck it on this Google Doc as part of it. I used Nirvana as an example as well at the same time. And that was like when the image was of, I think it was like 5 tubes. And so it was like, if you put 20% of your effort into each of those 5, you're not going to reach. But if you put 100% into one, you're going to get success. So if you spread yourself over too many projects, you spread yourself too thin. And it's like, when Nirvana were touring, before It Smells Like Teen Spirit came out, which to most people was their introduction to Nirvana, they'd been touring around Europe and America for like 2 to 3 years beforehand. And when they were touring, they were focusing on Nirvana, the rock band. They weren't also trying to set up a burger bar in Detroit, and they weren't trying to set up laundrettes in whatever. They were focusing on their Nirvana project, and so that is how how they got successful. Whereas too many people are spreading themselves too thinly, and that's what I could do. And I do try to write fiction when I get time, but you've got to do that balance, haven't you? What comes first? And I do believe fiction. There are people making a lot of money with fiction, and especially now with YouTube as well. There's YouTube and Patreon, and you create your audibles, or people using AI voices to these long videos. Apparently, my daughter listens to them as well. There's like 2 to 3 hour long videos on YouTube of people just doing scary stories, and people will listen to that, and so they're racking up these views, and that's making them sort of revenue money from that. And it's like, well, I could probably do that, but again, it's having to do that and then spread it across all these other platforms, and they are jobs in themselves, aren't they? And you just don't. If you spend 5 minutes writing fiction here and 5 minutes there, you're just not going to get the benefit from it out there, apart from for me. So you've got to sort of figure out what is you can do for now. It's if you get your 1,000 true fans who are willing to pay, who are listening to your music, who are listening to read your articles or your fiction, then you can probably have a good successful career out of it. And that's the great thing about the internet. It's got rid of the gatekeepers. Was it Kevin Kelly, his name was, who wrote about the 1,000 true fans? So if you get 1,000 people who are willing to pay you £100 or $100 over the year, what's that? It's $100,000 business for the year. So you only need 1,000 people who are willing to spend. I can remember Nine Inch Nails lead singer Trent Reznor. He just when the internet was coming around, I think he wanted to escape from his record label, and he set up a website. He was exchanging music for email addresses. And then he basically says, oh, I'm having this limited edition bundle created. If anybody's interested, keep an eye on your inbox. Once they've gone, they've gone. And I think he created, it was like 800 sets or something, whatever, or something. And basically, he knocked out, like, I think it was $100,000 over the weekend by selling it to these fans. There was probably records, T-shirts, and books, stuff that you're not going to get elsewhere. And it was this special bundle, so all the fans who really wanted it bought it. And that's the wonderful thing about the internet, is it connects us directly with those sort of fans, or people who want to hear us or see us. You don't have to go through an agency. You don't have to go through a record label. You don't have to go to an art gallery. We can sell directly to those people. But the secret is you've got to find those 1,000 true fans. And I'm afraid to say I'm not going to be one of those people who's going to blow smoke up you and say, oh, yeah, it's easy. It's easy enough to do. We've got the platforms. We've got the tools. We've got the greatest opportunity ever in all of human history to reach these people. But it isn't going to happen overnight, and it isn't going to happen if you don't do anything. There is work involved in finding them people.
Well said, Andy. That's very well said, man. Thanks for sharing those insights. Just one more question for you. So I know that you have, like me, ran several membership sites and paid subscriptions over the years. Can you tell us a story about how you got into reoccurring products and give people a few important things you've learned along the way, regarding, membership sites and continuity?
For the most part, I did it for the people, for companies. So, the one that sticks out the most for me was that we were doing a betting service. I don't know if you have them over in America, and it was around the time of the lockdown, and they tested it, and they sent an email out saying, we're going to be doing this. If anybody's interested, it was like a quick sales page setup. And I think they took about $4,000 that weekend. And I got an email on Monday, can you set it up? And so, the one thing about that was I just basically had to go round and find what I believe was going to be a successful football game, successful horse racing. But people were willing to pay for that. And that's the thing, people are willing to pay. You've got to remember, there's people willing to pay for websites. They'll pay to have adverts removed. They'll, you pay $9 so you don't have to see adverts. People like Netflix, people pay for subscriptions. I know they talk about subscription fatigue, but people are willing to pay. And the one thing that I really like about at the moment, especially with Substack or with Patreon and these others, not only can you set up today for sort of free, but you don't have to sell things for $97 a month. We come from this industry where I used to work, I mentioned his name before, who did the seminars. They love the idea that you can earn more and work less. And there's this idea that if you can sell a book to somebody, or information that tells them how to make a 20 grand doing X, Y, and Z, you can charge more than Stephen King can for a book that's only entertainment. And so they try and charge more, but you don't need to. You can actually, there's somebody on School who I think is making 80 grand a month from $10 a month, and it's to do with make money online. So if you can get the right people and you just need a platform, you can charge $10 a month. You don't need to produce a lot of content either each month for $10. But there's no reason why you can't have a large amount of people paying you $10 for that. See, there's this idea, do you need to, if you charge more, then in many ways you can earn more money from having less people, but then you've got to really deliver more. And I truly believe if you're going to charge somebody, say $10, you need to be delivering at least $20 to $30 worth of content. And if you're going to do 97, then you're going to a lot more. And I know there's perceived value on whatever the product is or what it's delivering. Everything's slightly different. But the people are out there. The platforms are there to use. And again, I read a story the other day, and I don't know how true this is, so don't quote me on this, but it was a story, it was on Facebook, about how somebody was sat next to a guy on a plane, and he looked like he said it was old money, but he was surprised to find that the guy had actually made something like 4 million selling ebooks to do with aquariums. And
nice.
Sorry?
I said, that's great.
Yeah, apparently it's his hobby, and the story went, and again, like I said, I don't know if it's true, but the story went was that he started writing twice a week on this blog, and it took 2-3 years to build up, but he realized he started getting visitors. It reminds me of the Pat Flynn, the smart passive income sort of, he started to do with architecture and whatever, and people come and he's like, oh, maybe they want an ebook. So he wrote this book about aquariums, and it started to sell well. So he wrote another one, and then so this guy sat there on this plane, and he's like, well, I think his day job was something to be like, he was originally a lawyer, but he was now retired, and he was making money on the internet because he had all these people who were buying about aquariums and stuff like that. And so the people are out there. You can connect to all these people, and with recurring income, if you can deliver. A lot of people write a book, but if you write a 12-chapter book, those 12 chapters can actually become a module per month. Do you know what I mean? And if you're only charging $10 or $20 a month, people can't expect a huge amount out of that. As long as you're delivering what they're paying for and more, then yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, honestly, I could even see like writing the book and then converting it into a membership module, a membership site, and then the membership module continues after the 12 chapter. It's going to continue month after month after month, and the 12 chapter book becomes like a way, like an entry point for people, and then they get upsold the membership club that starts with the foundational book stuff, and it continues, right? So like the book becomes like this upsell, or the book becomes like the front end for the upsell for the membership. Whatever, man. Whatever. I'm not saying it right, but you understand.
And I know what you're saying, and it's all about repurposing content as well. Like I said, if you take one chapter, turn it into a module, but you can expand on it by having a live talk, or you can do like an extra video, and you can take the module as a written PDF and then do a video, and it sort of it increases the value and the worth of it. But yeah, and it's there is this. You have to worry about churn, but you have to worry about that sort of fatigue. But I say there's a couple of memberships that I worked on. I remember one. I said it was a lockdown syndicate. I think that went for like 2, possibly 3 years. People paying for that, and it was just, it was crazy. And I wasn't doing a huge amount for it, but people were paying for it. And it's.
To your point, you were speaking a little bit ago about how sometimes the low ticket membership club can be more profitable than the little bit higher ticket membership clubs. And I know, like, I have had a $7 a week membership club outpace my $97 a month membership club. Like, I've seen it happen. These low ticket membership clubs can be really powerful. You know what I mean? And also they're like more they're a little more stable. You know what I mean? They're like less volatile. Like the churn rate won't be as great on like a low ticket. Like you get $10 a month, like what you're saying. To your point, people don't leave that often. $10 a month. They'll just hold on to it just to see what happens. They might check in on it every few months and stuff like that, but they don't leave as often. With the $97 a month, with the $100, $120, $200 a month membership club, people every single month, dude, every single month they're thinking, do I need this? I'm not sure. they're putting it to the
Yeah.
test every single month. You know what I mean? So it's a little more volatile. And that, just to your point there, I think what you said made a lot of sense. I want to make sure people get what you're talking about there, because it's really powerful.
It's a lot of money to lose, isn't it? 97 a month. You're paying a lot of money, so you want to make sure it's worth it, but it's a lot of money to lose. Whereas, like you say, $10 a month is, I don't know what the prices are over in America, but I mean, that's like 2 cups of coffee. You're not losing a lot. It's like, oh yeah, there's no urgency. It's not going to break the bank. It's like, you spending $10 doesn't mean you're not going to go without food for the month. So you get a lot of people in at that price. And so with the internet as well, with the platforms that can handle thousands of people, you don't need to be charging ridiculous amounts of money these days. So, I mean, Substack, those people who are making good money on Substack, I mean, I don't think it's a huge number of people, but there are people. I know, I did remember there's one I subscribed to her. I think she does witchcraft for people with ADHD, and she's earning sort of between $10,000 and $20,000 a month. From what I can
fantastic. That's fantastic. Andy, you've been so patient with your time, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope it's been enjoyable.
Yeah, right on, man. Where can people, if they want to follow you, where can people follow you more? Where can we send people to follow what you have going on? And what do you got going on right now people should be interested in?
Well, it's going up to Christmas, and like I say, I'm working on that project for 2026 in the moment. I'm doing quite a bit of freelance work at the moment, but I would say Substack is the best place to find me. That's the thing I'm publishing to. So that's my thoughts, my experiences, information. I mean, I do have a school group which I'm growing as well. I'm trying to grow more and share sort of courses and stuff into that. But I would send people over to Substack or Medium. Just do a Google search and find me as well. But yeah, that's where you can find me. And
right on.
There's all the connections from the bottom of the Substack post. You'll find all the other things.
And guys, that is Andi Leeman, Andy with an I. That's at substack.com /ANDILEEMAN. He is Andi Leeman. Spent an hour and a half of his time here with me this morning. Very generous, my friend. I appreciate you so much for being on here.
Thank you very much. It's been fun.
All right. We're out of here, guys. Peace.
Cheers. Bye-bye.